My name is Jasmine Castro.
My name's Jordan McGrath. And my name is Jose Loera. And our team topic is, why is antibiotic use in food animals good? You may ask yourself, what are antibiotics? Antibiotics are a medicine that helps stop infections caused by bacteria. Okay, now, how are these used in food animals? They are used in two different ways, which are therapeutic and subtherapeutic. Therapeutic is when antibiotics are used to prevent infection or illness from spreading. And subtherapeutic is when antibiotics are used in low doses to promote growth, milk production, or muscle increase. Alright, so our team decided that we are for antibiotic use in food animals. Okay, so should you be worried about consuming products that come from animals who were given antibiotics? The answer is no. You shouldn't worry about consuming these products. So you may ask, why not? One reason why you shouldn't worry about consuming these products is because the USDA, or better known as the United States Department of Agriculture, has strict warning periods, better known as withdrawal periods, before any animal can be processed. Another reason why you shouldn't worry about consuming these products is because the USDA also has a food inspection service known as a Food Safety and Inspection Service, in short FSIS, which monitors that any antibiotics have left the products and that there's no unsafe residue in any of the products. Alright, so what are other reasons we should continue to use antibiotics in food animals? First of all, banning or severely restricting the use of antimicrobials, otherwise known as antibiotics, in animals will negatively affect a veterinarian's ability to protect an animal's health and prevent suffering from disease, which of course leads to poor animal welfare. Another reason banning or severely restricting antibiotic use in food animals wouldn't be beneficial is because this will actually lead to disease in humans. I say this because food safety begins with healthy animals. Alright, so going into the next section, we're going to be talking about the history and background of antibiotics in food animals. So here you can see it's a brief timeline of the main events that have happened with antibiotics in the last couple of years, with the discovery of penicillin in 1928. And then in 1938, penicillin was actually developed, and as you can see, human antibiotic resistance started showing in 1945. Then we follow it with the development in 1950, and following it with in 1960 when we develop penicillin. And as you can see, in 1962 we started showing some human resistance to methicillin, and in 1970 we rediscovered and increased the use of penicillin, and in 1979 we started showing some human resistance to vancomycin as well.
Is Jasmine, and I'm going to be talking about the history and background. In the 1940s, livestock and poultry producers incorporated use of antibiotics on their animals, along with practices such as clean water, nutritious food, shelter from hot and cold, vaccinations, and medical treatments for their animals. In 1948, animal nutritionist Robert Stockstad and biochemist Thomas Jukes worked to enhance the growth of chickens. In 1951, the FDA first approved antibiotics for use in animals' feed, so that way they could gain weight. In 1969, the government experts in the UK concluded that antibiotics contribute to antibiotic resistance in humans. In 1970, scientists recommend certain antibiotics are banned in livestock, so that they remain effective in humans. Continuing in 1977, the FDA banned penicillin and tetracycline unless proven to be no threat to humans. The FDA needed more research. In 1980, they found little data recommending that it would be dangerous to humans. In 1997, the World Health Organization recommended no human antibiotics should be used in livestock for growth. In 1999, Europe bans human antibiotic use for feed growth. In 2003, in the U.S., Institute of Medicine reports rise in superbugs, recommends ban of growth antibiotics. U.S. sales of medically important antibiotics rose between 2009 and 2014. And in January 2012, the FDA limited the antibiotic cephalosporin given to animals used to treat pneumonia and other illnesses. In April 2012, the FDA voluntarily planned to phase out antibiotic use in animals over 3 years old. So one of the arguments made by the counterparty is that the resistance can lead to more deaths in animals and in the human population due to the antibiotic resistance. However, it has actually been found that there has been less deaths since using antibiotics in animals. According to the University of Delaware, livestock treated with antibiotics live longer than those who are not treated. Another thing is that antibiotics also benefit the animal welfare. According to the Animal Humane Institute, animal wellness is actually based on scientific evaluation, meaning are they comfortable, are they healthy, have they grown to full length, is everything okay for this animal? As a farmer and as a person in charge of the animals, it is their responsibility to maintain their welfare. According to Food Diagnostics, a farmer's first priority is the wellness of his animals. Making antibiotics illegal can be detrimental for animals and the public health.
So this is Jordan McGrath speaking. I'm going to be talking about how antibiotics can help get animals better sooner. So for the first bullet point, we're going to talk about is it prevents disease from spreading. So basically, when you give an animal a disease, as if you would do a human, if an animal were to be sick and have a disease, sort of like a human, you would give them medicine, and that can help it from spreading or becoming worse. Antibiotics is used to help human consumption and lower risk for getting sick. So basically, what this is saying is that antibiotics given to an animal who is sick can help with human consumption. So that way, when they are going to be used and processed into the food, when they're going to, become slaughtered in the slaughterhouse, humans can eat them with the lower risk of getting sick. And as I touched earlier, lowers risk of mass infection. So that way, if an animal were to get sick, it doesn't spread it to every other animal, and we have a big old problem of having to stop the mass spread. Next slide, I am also going to be talking about how we meet demand for a largely growing population. So as the population grows, we have more mouths to feed. And over this past decade, the population has doubled, thousands to millions. And antibiotics can help increase this meat being made, so that way we have more meat to sell, so that way it's less money. Farmers have to pull out of their own pocket, and we can have more meat to meet the mouths that have to be fed. The chart I decided to put in here, so that way you can get an idea of how from 2010 all the way to now, it has increased largely and has doubled over time, like I said before. And on to this next slide, we're going to talk about better growth. Antibiotics as growth prominent was discovered in the 1940s. So antibiotics as a growth prominent, it was observed that chicks improve in growth when they were fed bacterial shells of Streptomyces and Aerofaciens. This effect was looked at as a largely nutritional by producers and authorities of the food industry. In chicken feed, for example, tetracycline and penicillin shown substantial improvement in egg production, feed efficiency, hatchability, but it had no effect on mortality. Chorial tetracycline and oxytetracycline and penicillin also show an improved growth rate, but little effect on mortality. See, this is tetracycline 250, and these are the little capsules that they would receive, and they would find a way to give to the animals. So to basically cover everything we talked about today, we summarized it into 4 main bullet points that we thought would be essential to show as a summary and to basically recap everything that we've talked about. So one is that it's essential for the animal's health, that regardless if it's looked at as immoral or not, the animals need to be treated fairly and decently and have, decent living properties and not have to deal with sickness all the time. And we have to find a way to carry animals, otherwise we can't eat. And to carry on with that, to piggyback, animal welfare is set to protect animals in a way so that way they're not mistreated, as I've said before. And we also have to talk about how the population's growing and we need food to match the mouths that need to be fed. And not only does all that come into play, but the farmers, who are the ones that have to do all this, the ones that have to slaughter, clean the animals, take care of the animals, they have to save money as well. And if we have to keep giving them antibiotics, it gives them less work to have to worry about separating sick animals to animals who have to be isolated. And that is what we have came to talk about today about food animals and why we're for giving them antibiotics and why we think they should have a decent living situation and not have to deal with sicknesses all the time. And these are our references that we decided to use throughout this entire presentation. Thank you. This is Jordan.
This is Jasmine.
And this is Jose.
And we are going to be leading into our next topic, which is against use in antibiotics in food animals.